Hi there! You're watching the Gardens and Graveyards channel. My name is Charisma, and today we are at the Newport, Oregon Eureka Cemetery and Mausoleum. It was established in 1879 and it had burials about 20 years prior to the establishment, before the land was donated and dedicated to cemetery use. The family was just gracious enough to help community members have a place to bury their loved ones. This is our mausoleum. So I'm standing in front of the mausoleum. You can the marble behind me. This is a mausoleum that was built in 1965. Actually, you could see this gate. There's a step up there. That's considered building 1, and this is building 2. And so in 1965, building 1 was built. And then building 2 came a few years later. So this is building 1 right behind me. You can see the architecture of this building. I'll show you bigger pictures, but the architecture of this building is very 1960s. So I'm here because it's winter time. It's actually a gorgeous day today. It's like 62 degrees. It's a little bit breezy. It's absolutely beautiful. But most of our days have been so rainy, and everywhere in Oregon there's no escape. So I figure I'll probably be doing a lot more mausoleums this winter. Hopefully the wind's not so bad that it's distorting my voice. Anyway, I'm going to be doing a lot more mausoleums this winter and sharing those with you, and most of the mausoleums that we're going to be seeing are indoors, but there are some outdoor ones. We only have an outdoor one here at Eureka, so today is the perfect day to show this to you. Otherwise, I'm going to be pouring down rain to show you, and of course I want to share this mausoleum with you because it's near and dear to my heart. So today I thought I would just share with you the building, and I have some I have the original rendering of the architect's design. I'll share that with you. I thought that's really just a special piece of history that we have. And then I wanted to show you the very first burial, and is also the first woman burial of this mausoleum, and it's really unique kind of story. So I'm going to turn the camera around and show you, because she's actually buried all the way at the top. All right, so you can see this is the building here, and this is building 1 and building 2. The first burial and first woman burial of this building was Barbara Sutton, and she is up here, right there. And she is buried next to her husband, Robert. She was buried in 1965. But the unique thing about her burial is, you remember I said that this building was built in 1965 and this one was done a few years later? Well, Barbara was first interred, and now I can't remember exactly where. I'd have to get the map back out. But let's see. Let me see. All right, so I checked the map, and Barbara was originally buried in this space right here, and then in 1965, and then in 1993, when her husband passed away, I'm assuming because those spots were already sold around her, that they decided to bury him up here, and he's the last name on the top right there, and then they buried her next to him on the exact same day in 1993, which I thought was really a unique thing to have happen. So if you're not familiar with mausoleums, what they are is they hold a casket, and each one of these panels come off. You see this bolt screw thing. So each one of these, where you see the scoring, though, that is one panel. So this whole panel will come off we'd set the marble down on the ground, and then there's another panel behind that that's like wood or particle board, I think, and then that comes down, and then it's just an open chamber with some rails on it that the coffin slides into the building, and that's it. It's a sealed and air sealed coffin that the body is placed in, and then the coffin is placed in there. And then we, of course, put the plywood back on and put the marble back on, and that is how the people are interred in this building. Now, when Barbara was first interred in the first building, it was exactly like that. And then when it was time to take her out, disinter her, and move her, all they had to do is take off the panel, pull out the casket, and move her to another location. When the disinterments happen in the ground, it's not so easy. You have to dig all the way down, you know, the 4.5 feet down to the casket, pull the casket out of the ground. The casket's typically in a liner, so you have to pull the liner out, take the liner top off, take the casket out of the liner. It could be a really dirty job. This would be quite simple, kind of like taking a spoon out of a drawer and putting it in another drawer. Of course, it's a lot more emotional than a spoon, by far. Okay, so that is how the mausoleum works. The mausoleums are specifically for people who are in caskets, but occasionally we will have a family member place a urn in with a casket, or either inside of their casket before we inter them, or there's just enough room on each one of the chambers in there that we can sneak a little urn in there. So that happens on occasion as well. Now you could see the depth of this building is only 8 feet, which is the typical length of a casket. Because it's a building, it can't be any bigger than that. And then the back wall is just blank. The other thing with the mausoleum is occasionally there are oversized caskets. They're a little wider, a little longer, and those caskets would not be accommodated in this mausoleum. Okay, I'm gonna walk down to the end and just show you what we have here. So this is the end of the mausoleum here, and you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 5. There's 5 tiers up, and so for our last 2 tiers up there, we have to rent a lift to bring the casket up and put into the building. The other ones, the third one is it takes 2 to 4 guys to lift the casket and carefully get it in there, depending on the guys. And then the other 2, they have like a kind of like a manual thing. They could lift up the casket and help them get it up a little bit higher. But it's certainly far more easy to do with at least 2 people. All right, so then at on the edge of this building, they built it up just a little bit more so that it's about 18 inches longer than the last casket burial, so that we can open these panels and we can put urns in them. And this is called a niche wall, and each niche holds 2 urns, standard size urns. And on this wall, the way this works is it's actually 4 panels. So this little square, this little square, this little square, and this little square will all come off together. You can see again with the bolts. So that is 1 panel. These are scored to show a differentiation between, there is a separate niche with a wall in between each one of these, but the marble panel comes off as one, it sets to the side, and then there's individual pieces of plywood. So there would be a piece of plywood here covering their urn, covering their urn, covering their urn, covering their urn. So if we pull off this panel, there's just 4 pieces of wood, and then we can pull off the 1 piece of wood that we're actually getting into the niche for. Each little square can accommodate 2 name bars and 1 vase. So that's what you see here. And with these, because our the urns with the cremains in it are typically like 8 to 12 pounds, sometimes a little bit more. Our groundskeeper just gets a really tall ladder and gets them up there. It's the panel actually that's a little bit more difficult than getting the people up there. So in that case, he might have a helper come, and they get two ladders and bring that big panel down, so they could put an urn in there. What else do I want to say? At some point or another, the association decided on the style of name bar. Some mausoleums will have multiple styles, but it's really common to see one style of name bar uniform across all the mausoleum panels. So they decided, a company called Bronzecraft makes these, and they decided on the font and the style where it's just the years and not full dates. And they decided on the size of the urn and the color. We decided to go with bronze. There's lots of different colors that people could have chosen. Because we want them all uniform, we continue to order the exact same thing as new name bars arrive or are ordered. So people are still using this mausoleum. Obviously, the people who have prepaid for their slots, that's a done deal. But there have been new interest in using the mausoleum. Many people still use the niche. It's something people like to have. I think one of the attractions of having a mausoleum or a niche is some people have issues with the idea of putting their loved ones down in the ground or being buried down in the ground. So being put in a clean, airtight, safe space like this just feels better for them, and that's why they choose to be buried in mausoleums and niche walls. There's other buildings. There's a building called a Columbarium, which we don't have here, but it's basically a niche wall. It holds only urns, but it's standalone, like it would just be in the middle of the graveyard or in the middle of a flower bed or something, standing alone, and it's just, that's all it is. This is considered a niche wall because it's attached to the mausoleum. So there you have it. That is what niche walls and mausoleums and columbariums are, and a little bit about our own mausoleum. And so when we go visit mausoleums throughout Oregon, you'll have an idea of exactly what is a mausoleum, and you can refer back to this video, and that way I could just focus on the history of the mausoleums that we're gonna go visit. There's lots of mausoleums in the Portland area that are indoor and absolutely beautiful, and actually right next door, so my office is right behind me, that white building, that's my office, and then this is the mausoleum. And then if you turn this way, there's a bank of trees right there. Right behind that tree line is our local funeral home, and they also have a mausoleum. And so we will be visiting that mausoleum pretty soon, and I will share that with you in a video coming. So yeah, that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're celebrating your life. Until the next video,